I would think so. 550 around in about an hour's time. That's what I would imagine. And we can take the questions also as we really go along. That's just fine with me. But we'll have to just maintain the timeline to about an hour's time period, which is there. Well, thank you very much, Ms. Thapra, and thank you very much. I must thank the Honorable Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh for inviting us to the Knowledge Commission itself of the state, the Knowledge Advisory Group, which has been constituted by the Honorable Chief Minister, and it has always been a pleasure to be working along with the visionary chief ministers like him. And many of you perhaps would know that we have an upcoming campus in Jadcherla, which was earlier, of course, a part of Hyderabad itself and part of Andhra Pradesh. So we are coming up with a campus out over there, and we currently have a campus, a city campus kind of thing in Tarnaka. Well, I've been asked to speak something today in the area of strengthening the universities and colleges today that we have, particularly the engineering colleges that are there in Andhra Pradesh, and a couple of other topics which have been listed out right now. Let me just very quickly look at it as to what are the kind of challenges that we have today. I think when I look at the higher education, in the first place, the biggest challenge that we have is how do we respond to the changing demographic structure that we have today in this country. Quite clearly, we find that the fact that, well, India is a young nation is not enough for us. What is important is that this young nation is today having a very different kind of an expectation. Their aspirations are entirely different from the aspirations of the earlier generations that is there. This is a generation which is a 24/7 kind of a generation. This is a generation that is continuously connected. This is a generation that is communicating on an ongoing basis, wants education because they see education as a way forward to strengthen their own lives or to improve their lifestyle. That is something which I think is a very major kind of a change. Earlier, this was not such a kind of a linkage. Earlier people did not see such a linkage between higher education and economic growth, higher education and lifestyle improvement. Today, an average family, even those who are at the bottom of the pyramid, see that kind of linkage between higher education and the income generation, as also the lifestyle change. If that is what it is, clearly the question that comes up is, what is it that we in the universities and colleges are doing? And I personally feel that a lot has to be done in the current university and college systems that we are running today. Much of our education system today is really geared up for 1950, the 1960s part of it, where the demand for education was limited, and therefore the capacity was built up accordingly. Today, the demand for education is so substantive that in the first place, the capacity issue has to be handled. And that capacity issue can be handled only by having multiple campuses or using technology to reach out to markets which are today remaining unserved. Now, what we are seeing today is that there is generally a resistance, for setting up a new campus, or for that matter, using the technology to the extent to which it should be used. Especially when we really talk about it in terms of taking the education to the new areas, to the new markets itself. In the context of higher education today, I think while setting up a campus is a capital-intensive strategy, the reaching out to the market through technology route is a much lesser capital-intensive kind of a proposition. Because all that you need today is something that we are doing right now, which is a combination of the video, the data, and the information. And today that is really possible. I'm sure given in the state of Andhra Pradesh, this is far more easily, it is far better than what exists in other parts of the country. So I think it is important to take a look at it. How do we reach out to these kind of markets? What are the kind of new courses that we really develop? What are the kind of new programs that we develop? The conventional programs that we have had, for example, like the PE, etc., they have served a certain purpose. But today the market, when we have got to go beyond and take a look at in terms of integrating a couple of other disciplines so that we are able to really respond to the aspirations not only of the student but also of the industry. Consider an example that we are really talking about it in the context of engineering only that I would refer to, and I would use our example at NMIMS. Almost about 7 years back, after we became a university, from a management school, we became a university in 2003. And after we became a university in 2006, 2003, in 2006, we sat with the industry and we asked them, what are the kind of new programs? What is it that we should be doing which will help us to make engineering graduates more employable? And this is where what we heard from the industry. What industry told us was that they didn't need only the engineers. What they needed were engineers with managerial capabilities also, who could manage the projects, who could manage the technology, who could deliver on time, who could understand the cost structures, who could understand the importance of finance, and who could also understand the importance of customer. What we were also listening from the industry was that many of the engineering colleges today lack in terms of building skills. The skill building activity today is on a much lower side in engineering colleges. For a simple reason, and I think and that's what the industry told us, for a simple reason that somebody who was on the other side of the table until yesterday as a student is now today the faculty in most of the engineering colleges. So that particular faculty member has had no experience of industry, has had no experience of the industrial project, and consequently is not able to really teach better than what he was taught and what he learned. So the qualitative improvement of the engineering colleges was really stuck. We understood that kind of a message. And with that, we designed a 5-year integrated program called as an MBA Tech. This is a program which combines the engineering and management. But these are not two, though it looks to be a 2 degrees, though it looks to be a dual degree, but actually at the end of the day, it is one single degree. And the management inputs and the engineering inputs are so integrated that until the end of the 5 years, the student is learning engineering subjects, as at the same time, from the 2nd year onwards, he starts learning something about the management. So the whole structure today has gained the acceptance from the industry. It is today a program that has been very widely recognized. Look at it from another kind of a perspective. In terms of the skill building, how much of the time do we really spend in terms of designing, for example, the field projects? Today there is a very major kind of a development that is occurring in Andhra Pradesh also, and it is going to be much more now with the new state, which is in terms of the infrastructure management. Now, how many of our engineering colleges and the graduates are getting an opportunity to really work on some of those infrastructure projects right in their own cities or in their own region itself? Or, for that matter, let us say, looking at it from yet another angle, if they are doing something in the area of IT and computers, working on live problems of the IT firms, writing algorithms, for example, of the live problems, and which is where we we decided that we are going to be partnering with a couple of corporates. Like, for example, we partnered with EMC Square. We have partnered with Accenture. We have partnered with Cisco. We have today some of the partnerships with some of the leading IT and computer companies today in our engineering colleges. That brings what we call it as the life problems to the engineering students. They get an opportunity to work on life problems, which are then looked at by the industry mentors. So what is really happening? That the skills of writing a program, skills of building up algorithms is really then helped in terms of putting it up there. There's another perspective when we look at it from the from the skills part of it. While the students may learn subjects like physics, chemistry, mathematics, or engineering, design, drawing, or many of those other subjects that are there, and the engineering, and at the end, graduate with an engineering degree, but somewhere they have perhaps not been able to understand the importance of the human being. And therefore, the industry also told us that soft skills is an area that is getting missed out. And therefore, there's a great need to focus on the soft skills. I'll move slightly from let us say, the NMIMS experience into taking another kind of a broad view of strengthening of the universities and colleges part of it, especially the engineering colleges that are there. At FICCI, we have a higher education committee. FICCI, as you all know, is an industry chamber. And in that industry chamber, there is a higher education committee. There are several other committees which are there. The Capital Goods Committee, comprising of companies like L&T, Thermex, Siemens, Bharat Forge, etc. They're all the members of that particular Capital Goods Committee. Now, the Capital Goods Committee had been feeling the dearth of good engineers. They had been feeling that they're not able to attract good engineers. Those whom they found that they were not really having the skills. Consequently, a couple of years ago, the Higher Education Committee and the Capital Goods Committee sat down to discuss what can be done. And we created what we call it as the National Knowledge Functional Hub. Now, this NKFH today operates all over the country. There are in 4 regions of the country, we have these hubs in the colleges of that particular state itself. Now, what typically happens is that the engineering colleges come together, as also the industry in that area come together. The industry then again gives the live projects, sits with those engineering colleges, allows its executives to spend some time in the engineering colleges as a faculty there. This particular executive teaches, this particular executive researches, this faculty, this executive also helps in curriculum development. Likewise, the companies need to really accept the faculty from the engineering colleges for a limited time period, so that the faculty also then gets benefited with the industry experience. The sum effect of this is that the engineering curriculum gets developed. And not only that the engineering curriculum gets developed, I believe that overall, the quality of education also substantially improves. So what is really needed is to really build that kind of a relationship with industry for one sake. The first thing is, let's open up our windows, let's open up our doors and let the fresh air come in. So which challenges our own paradigms, which challenges our own beliefs. As an educator myself, as a teacher, as somebody who has taught in India and outside since 1972, I believe we as teachers are really the one who resist the change the most. But I think it is important for us to really accept the fact that the change is all around us. And if we don't change, then in that case, the graduates whom we are teaching will never be able to really lead this country. So what is needed is to let us, to let the, even if there's an uncomfortable question to us from the industry, even if it questions our beliefs, even if it says what you are doing is wrong, or it is yesterday's that you did was correct, I think it is necessary for us to accept it. Equally, it is important for us to look at what is really happening around the world. The world is moved today. At the global level, when you look at it, the developments tell us that, well, no more now education is limited only to one discipline. It is increasingly moved towards interdisciplinary courses. It is increasingly moved towards creating a digital learning experience. At the end of the day, it is about learning experience. You and I know it. Universities and colleges are nothing but about learning experience. What is it that the student carries from that particular institution and from that particular university? What kind of values does the individual take? What kind of a learning this person has had? Now, it is from this kind of a perspective that the question that needs to be asked. What is it that we are doing? For example, there's a whole body of research which is occurring, which is there, which is a multidisciplinary research, maybe looking at just a simple human problem. It could be a problem relating to health. It could be a problem relating to, let's say, lifestyle. It could be a problem relating to economic parameters. But you would find today the inputs that are coming up, the disciplines which are coming together are not just merely one particular discipline, but it is today a multidisciplinary research. You would find people coming over from engineering, medicine, management, coming together to research that particular problem itself. I saw, for example, one very interesting kind of an experiment, a center, which was a multidisciplinary research center, an innovation center at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Now, this is a center which is completely dedicated to the multidisciplinary research where scholars from different disciplines come together to work on a problem which could be, even for example, developing a diagnostic equipment which is going to be developing, or which is going to, let us say, sense or predict, let's say, the heart problem, or which is going to predict a cardiac problem, and that is going to help the cardiologist to take an action well before even the symptoms occur. So this is where, these issues are there. So the multidisciplinary research today, to my mind, is really becoming a key thing today worldwide. At the same time, look at it from another kind of a perspective. India, in terms of patents, is right at the bottom level. It doesn't figure anywhere at the global level. The largest number of patents are really held in the US, followed by in Asia, in South Korea, or in some of the other Asian countries. But where are we? Why is it that we are not able to do it? And I think it is largely because of the reason, not because of the reason that we don't have problems, but perhaps somewhere or the research capabilities of the faculty haven't got developed to that an extent. Take a look at it in our own country. We have almost in each area a problem that can be researched, and on the basis of that, we can develop a program and a product. But how many a time are we really doing that kind of an adequate research? One of the most interesting examples, let's just take one of the latest examples which is there for us right now, a serious matter which is affecting the entire country and the economy itself, which is the farmer suicides, the case of farmer suicides. It's a problem which has been so rampant in the state of in almost all states. I remember several years back when I was doing some study in Andhra Pradesh on the cotton farmers, I heard the maximum number of farmer suicide cases at that point of time, largely because of the kind of chemical inputs which were being used by the farmers, which were not really delivering those kind of results which were required to be there. But more than that, I think the fact is that the farmer indebtedness is so very high that the moment there is a problem in agriculture or in the field, the farmer is left with no other alternative but to really, look for or he just despairs and perhaps wants to commit a suicide. Now, if this is an issue, let's just sit back in our own universities and ask the question. A simple question: why farmer suicide? How can we make agriculture today in our country environmental, safe? How can we make agriculture which will not get affected by the vagaries of the weather? How can we make agriculture which will be sustainable over a period of time? And what is it that we need to be doing for the purposes of farmer education? What do we need to be doing in the area of reducing the farmer burden, financial burden? And what do we do to really provide him, this particular farmer, an end-to-end solution? Now, there's a whole lot of work which is there today, currently going on in Israel, for example, which combines agriculture sciences, technology, and management. Now, it is no more now a subject of agriculture universities. Agriculture is no more now a subject of agriculture universities. It is a subject which universities need to attack with an understanding of agriculture sciences, soil, for example, the technology, for example, the management, for example, the sociology, for example, and the economics, for example. So, in a way, if we start looking at it in a holistic manner, we possibly can come out with programs and solutions which at some point of time we may be able to even patent, which may be able to, and we might be able to benefit the state and the country. So from this kind of a perspective, when we start developing, our own systems, we need to look at it from the perspective of what are the problems that are there today in our own immediate environment, and what is it that we need to be doing to be able to respond to that kind of an environment. When we look at education again, and in higher education, the whole ecosystem of higher education, I think this whole ecosystem of higher education can get developed only when we encourage competition. The state universities will benefit only when competition is there. And the competition has to come from not just merely some other state universities in the region or within the country, but also from the private universities. Today there are some very good private universities in this country who are doing some remarkably great job, some of whom have already set up a campuses in your state. Brits Pilani, for example, has set up a campus in Andhra Pradesh. NMIM has set up a campus in Andhra Pradesh. I remember XLRI was invited to set up a campus in Andhra Pradesh. So likewise, there are some other good universities today, private universities, that are doing a great job. Similarly, in your state, there is a need today to look at it from a legislative framework. If we are able to create a legislative framework which allows a private investment to come in, which allow the private universities to be set up. And these universities not being discriminated against the private state university. That means, in other words, everybody being treated as a university, as an institution of higher learning, and then actually looking at from the point of view of the output rather than from the point of view of the input. What is the outcome? An outcome-based appraisal of an institution, then to that extent again, the overall ecosystem of education in the state is going to go up. It is not just merely the private universities that will be more conscious of the fact that they have to deliver on those outcomes, but even the public system would be conscious of the fact that they have to deliver an outcome, and an outcome which the educational system and the political system has to sit down together and decide. Because unless and until these outcomes are defined in the interest of the state, each of us would be doing our things the way we think is the best. But what is important is to look at it from the perspective of an outcome itself. We have also looked at it from the point of view of competition, is to look at how do we really bring the foreign universities. Today, foreign universities are wanting to come in India. I'm of the view that foreign universities can really help our system in terms of A, improving the overall quality of our academic systems. Our examination system, for example, is today outdated. We still depend on rote learning. We still say, well, it's a closed book examination, question paper is written out by the faculty, and what does the faculty really ask the questions? Perhaps if you were to compare the questions that were set up by the faculty 5 years before or 10 years before, it would just be the same, though the language would be changing. The data may be changing, but the essence would just remain the same. It is still dependent on the fact that you are testing the memory. What is important is not testing the memory. What is important is how do you test the learning? Has really the learning occurred? Has there been an internalization there? And I think when I look at some of the foreign universities, there's a whole lot of work that they have done today in terms of strengthening the learning environment, in terms of ensuring that there's a learning that is taking place. For example, a student is being assessed not on the basis of the rote, on the basis of a few questions itself. The student is being assessed for the whole term on whatever the student would have done, right from the first day in the class to the last day in the class. The student is being assessed on not one parameter but on multiple parameters. The student is being assessed through an open book examination, for example. The student is there are multiple other ways by which the student is getting assessed. So the assessment system, the examination system today needs a reform in our own universities. Much the same way as we look at the admission system. Most of the time, we find that our admission systems are so much influenced by extraneous factors that the university's parameters or university's goal of achieving excellence is somewhere or the other compromised. How do we improve the quality of our student intake, for example? And I like to just focus on this, and this is something which is of an interesting kind of an experiment that we did at Hyderabad. I believe in the first place that unless and until the pool of applications increase for a particular program, the quality of intake can never improve. And let me share with you the experience that we have had at NMIMS. In 2009, NMIMS as a management school used to get about 18 to 20,000 students writing for the MBA entrance examination, from where we would be taking just about 240 or 300 students. These students were obviously coming over from all over the country. The written examination was nothing much to really write about. It was more testing about the knowledge of the student, on general knowledge, general awareness. It tested the student on comprehension. It tested his, let's say, some ability to comprehend some numerical problems, etc. And clearly we were not able to get the kind of student quality that we really wanted. This was again some kind of an input that we got from the industry in 2007, when we were sitting down to the industry, when we sat with the industry and asked them this question: what do you think we should be doing to improve the quality of the student intake at MIMS? And what they said was something very interesting. They said that, well, it is necessary for you to really test things which you are not testing at this point of time. And what were these? For example, learnability was one part with the set. They also said that, well, you need to test the critical thinking skills of the students. And you need to test them not through the kind of questions which you are asking, but possibly in a very different way. With some of those kind of inputs, we started asking ourselves a question: what is it that we should be doing? And the first thing that we did was to really change, among the multiple kind of options that we looked at, we said we need to change our testing agency. When we started looking at the testing agencies, we found one of the global testing agencies, which had been doing it at the global level, which had been conducting the GMAT for worldwide, and this was a company called Pearson VUE. We moved from a paper pencil test to a computer-based test. The strength of the test that came up was that this was a test that was developed based on psychometrics. And the moment the items were developed on the basis of psychometrics, they were very clear that we were able now to really look at the potential of the student and not really what the student knew at a given point of time, but what was the potential of that student. So the entire test changed. And we just had 3 sections in the test: the quantitative, the logic, and the comprehension. This was a test which was offered in a 90-day kind of a window. We again moved away from a 1-day test to a 90-day window. We offered the student the convenience of rescheduling their test at any time. We gave them the opportunity to not only reschedule their test, but also to change their venue. Also gave them the opportunity to improve their test score with a firm belief that a performance of the student on a given date can get impacted because of multiple reasons which are well beyond the control of the student, and therefore gave 2 additional opportunities to the student to improve his test score and then submit and then tell us which is the score that we should take for the purposes of considering him whether the student should be called for personal discussions and interview or not. Ladies and gentlemen, this kind of a change that we brought about in 2009-10 saw very interesting results for us. From about 19,000 students, we came to 62,000 tests being administered all over the country in just about 5 to 6 years time period. We found, for example, that the number of engineers who were coming into our classrooms, which were just about 30-35%, that number moved over from 30-35% to about 80%. Students with work experience now were there, and students, not only that they were with the work experience, but these were the students. We also saw that good number of students from humanities and social sciences also came in, and they were perhaps one of the top ranking kind of students from some of the top institutions that came and joined that program. This had an impact on the program being delivered in the class. Now this quality of the student started putting a pressure on the faculty. Because now the student said, I know what you are teaching me, tell me more now. So the faculty had to be better prepared. And it was over here that we said we need to develop our faculty. So we started sending our faculty to Harvard or Stanford or to ISB, etc., for the purpose of developing them. They came back, they started delivering some good programs, good courses, and then this resulted in better job placements, better roles, and not only better roles, but even the salaries that the students got were much higher than what they were getting in 2008-9. So this really shows that if we were to, and another thing that we did was, we in our private university, in NMIMS, we earlier had a quota for the management quota. We did away with the management quota. We did away with the minority quota, the Gujarati quota, or anybody else. So we said we are not going to accept any quota. We are going to admit students only on the basis of the merit. The consequence of this was that the sum total of this was that the business school climbed many ranks up by 2013 itself, and the student placements really had a very different kind of a performance itself. So the admission process, the way foreign universities admit, the way some of the top institutions admit, I think we need to take a look at it. There's a third part, which is in terms of the rigor in our academic program. And I think the rigor in our academic programs need to be looked at. Today there is a very major problem in all our universities, and that is of student attendance, student indiscipline. We also have a problem simultaneously of the faculty not coming in on time. So it is not just the student, but it is also the faculty which is not coming on time. So we need to really focus on both of them. And therefore, there's a lot that needs to be done. I think the other part of it is to really start looking at it from the perspective of what can we do to offer services to the industry? What can we do in the Department of Management, for example? Department of Management and Engineering are the two departments which can really provide today some very meaningful service to the industry. Let's think in terms of offering, for example, whether it is the problem solving, which I talked about it just a few minutes back, or it could even be executive education. Now this executive education need not necessarily be the way, for example, the Administrative Staff College of India does, or IIM does, or ISB does. It could even be something of a very different kind. Consider, for example, offering a short-term certificate courses and offering them on the digital platform, making them available to the student community, to the executive community, getting your own students to register in that certificate course. Those to register need to go through the quiz and other assignments, and they need to be tested, and therefore you need to consider them in terms of their grades and everything. But those who are not executives, give them the certificate of participation. So create those kind of certificate courses that would be in demand in your region, in demand in the country. And there's a whole lot of a demand today coming over from firms and organizations which are today in the remote corners of this country. And not everywhere I can reach, not everywhere NMIMS can reach, not everywhere XLRI can reach, but I think we can all reach together through the digital code itself. So the MDPs on the digit on the digital mode, executive education through the digital mode is a way forward. I also believe that possibly time has come when any of our Indians, the Indian diaspora, which is today all over the world, working in academics or in industry, if you are able to bring them in, and I have seen, for example, a very strong sense of belonging that they have, each of them have to their own home district. Let me give you an example. I was heading IIM Indore in 1999, between 1999 to 2004. And at that, Indore had the difficult problem of being located in central India, not being Mumbai, not being Delhi, and therefore most of the foreign faculty, they didn't really find it very interesting to come to that particular state. We just went about, I made one kind of a small communication to those from Madhya Pradesh settled out of the country to help us build IIM Indore. And this appeal that I made was essentially through a small little ad that I released for faculty recruitment in The Economist. All that I said was, here is a lifetime opportunity for you to build an IIM in your own home state. And believe me, there were some who really came forward and they said they would like to help me. And two, three of them actually started coming over to IIM Indore almost every year to teach a course and also to teach in our management development program. They also helped us to sharply position the event. So ladies and gentlemen, what I'm really trying to say is that we need to really start going beyond the way we are doing today. If we are able to really extend our horizons, go beyond, I think, believe me, but have a very, very interesting world and a very rewarding world. The challenge is substantive there, but believe the Indian demography today and the Indian sociology today is demanding that kind of a response from all of us in the higher education. Thank you very much, and I'm open to the questions. Sure. Let me just very quickly respond to you, Dr. Nandini. I think, as I shared with you, it was not such an easy thing for us to be really creating a program. I talked about MBA Tech today, and it must have looked that it was such an easy journey for us. No, it was not an easy journey for us. In the first place, the challenge really lies in terms of designing the program. And in designing the program, it is necessary to first sit down with the industry and understand what industry is really wanting. The second thing is that how do you build or how do you retain the essence of the two disciplines? How do you retain the essence of the two disciplines? One doesn't have to teach everything. There's a whole lot of things that we would be teaching in the MBA program and possibly a whole lot of things that we would be teaching in engineering. Let's ask some of those kind of questions. What is the core? And whether it is civil engineering, mechanical engineering, and that was one thing that we really looked at it. So the core of one discipline and the core of another discipline, and let's try and combine that. In this, what is important is that right from the first year or the second year, the subject of the other disciplines also need to start off with. Gradually, in our case, what happened was that in the first 3.5 years, we possibly have 80% engineering and 20% management. In the next 1.5 year, the ratio just gets reversed. It is 20% engineering and 80% management. Now, the challenge that comes about is that the management discipline, the moment we talk about the management subjects coming in, the Department of Management may feel threatened with the whole idea because they feel that possibly their own strength, their own identity may get lost. I believe that the Department of Management MBA program has its own uniqueness. The industry recruits those MBAs for a different purpose, and the industry will recruit these graduates for a different purpose. And this is what we have seen, for example. In an MBA program, in NMIMS, for example, the recruitment may be at an average salary of 18 lakhs. Whereas in the MBA Tech, the recruitment may be at let us say 6 lakhs or 7 lakhs. But that is something which has to be brought in. So that is the other part. The other thing is the faculty development. I think we need to develop the faculty to be able to handle the interdisciplinary courses. And the third thing which is important is getting the people from both the disciplines to sit down together and identify problems that can be studied in the classroom together. And there could be some of the subjects which can be taught by the faculty from different disciplines itself. For example, I'll give you another kind of an example. A course on project management, for example, in MBA Tech, has faculty from civil, IT, and management teaching the course. So we can do that. So these are some of the ways by which we can really take it forward. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Well, if you look at the gross enrollment ratio, I think what is important for us, because one is to look at the school level, that's the first level. The other is in terms of the higher education. At the national level, if I want to look at it, at the national level, the gross enrollment ratio at the national level is about 30%. In the higher education, it's about 20%. And again, at the primary level, it is about 70% or something like that, whereas at the secondary level, it gets reduced, and then finally in the higher education, it gets reduced down to 20%. I think when we look at the gross enrollment ratio, the important thing is to really ask the question, why is this kind of a ratio really low? When the demographic structure is such that we can all get benefited, the aspiration of the population is such that they want education, what is it that is coming in the way? To my mind, the most important reason is the excess. The excess of we are still not able to provide access to all segments of the society to our education system. There are still people who are living on the margins of the society, who are not able to get access to our education systems. Multiple reasons, maybe either the financial reason, or it could be the socio-economic, sociological kind of a reason. But we need to take a look at it. What can we do to improve the access? How do we remove these barriers? And the universities need to ask this kind of a question. Why is it that the students are not able to come in our own system itself? Second, important thing is, do students really see that their value would increase Are they going to get some valuable inputs? Will their employability improve? Will the opportunity will their employment opportunities improve? Employability today has become a very, very important factor. Believe me. Most universities, whenever I have talked to the university vice chancellors, they don't like my idea. They don't like this whole proposition that employability, higher education should be focusing on employability. Because all along the purpose that we have talked about is research and education. But I believe that employability is a very, very important part. What are we doing in our own system to improve the employability? Does a student see that, well, after graduating from these universities, I'm going to be getting a good opportunity to get placed anywhere in the industry or gainfully employed? So that's a next question that we need to be doing. What employability we need to build is to need to focus on skilling, something that I referred. And we need to focus on hard skills and also the soft skills. There's a third part which is there. When we look at it from the point of view of the GER, how do we finance the student education today? This is a question that we today are asking ourselves in our own university. How do we finance the education? The government itself cannot finance all education. No matter how serious the government may be and how well-meaning the government would be. But the demand on the exchequer are plenty. There are conflicting demands. So what is really necessary is, again, how do you bring let's say, the people, high net worth individuals in your area to support education? How do you bring corporates to support education? How do you bring the local industry to support education? If we are able to create a financing mechanism, believe me, some of the students who today may not be able to come to the education because their parents cannot afford education, that they will find it as an opportunity to come forward. Thank you, and I'm sorry that I couldn't be there personally, although I have committed to you. But because of some important work here at the university, I just couldn't move out at the last minute. Thank you, sir.